a prior video, I spoke about the Salesforce XML, how to render it via CSS, as well as how to use the Bing chatbot, which is available for free in the Edge browser. And it actually does the transformation for us to HTML tags. Now, I tried several different queries and was unsuccessful to get a pure CSS outcome. So I thought, okay, a couple of rows, that's great, it works, but hundreds of rows, different custom objects, different XML. I'm probably going to need to write a JavaScript application. And today for me, the big three are what I focus on. I've written server-side languages before in my prior careers, and I think with JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, you can pretty much do a lot of things you need to do today, technology-wise. Also, there are no dependencies. You just need a web browser for those three technologies to work. This can be done on a Chromebook for all intents and purposes. You don't need a full-fledged PC per se. Okay, so with that thought, and you can see some of the output, I'm going to try this again because I wasn't recording when I did it. I said, okay, this is the question. Please create JavaScript to transform this XML to an HTML table, which is what essentially happened here with the first output and the first question. Now, the question did not specifically ask it to do that per se, but it interpreted as that. Okay, so that's, you know, it's fine. That's fine. This is going to get better for sure, 100%. But let's just do this. Let's please create this to transform. Let's head back into, in this case, I'll just grab from root to root. I'm not going to get the declaration or anything else. I know it's going to cut it off because of the 2,000 character limit. So I just did this before. And let's see if it gets or gives me the same output. And then let's see what we can do here to play around for this. Yeah, so here we go. Now that's interesting. All right, I want to compare this because this, I think it's a little different for what it did. Okay, so this looks like it wrote jQuery. I want to scroll up here a little bit. Yeah, this is neat. This is very interesting. Whereas this, pure JavaScript. Yeah. It must have thought I didn't like... this is funny. It must have thought I didn't like the output, so I asked it again, and it's like, well, wait a second. If you don't like it this way, I'm going to give it to you that way. Wow. All right, so let's go back. Let's start playing here. We're going to create a new HTML file, and we're going to call this HTML file Process XML. And I want to pick it as an HTML. Now, why am I doing HTML? Why am I not doing JavaScript? I'm going to put some more markup in here to build this out really quickly for us, just to prove it can work. And again, I'm dumping everything in this folder, which probably not the smartest, but then again, I'm not that smart. So all good. Let's start off with standard fare. In fact, let's grab what was generated before, because it did a nice job of the doc type and the body, and that's the core of what you're looking to do for HTML anyways. Your core 3 tags for your HTML are your doc type declaration, and then the 3 tags are the HTML, the head, the body. So that's really it. The style tag is optional. You don't need to do styles if you don't wish. This would be a stock doc type HTML tag, head tag, and then body and body, and then what you do is you end the HTML. Again, W3 Schools is your friend on this. They're a great site. And we should be able to format the document, and we can see here there's nothing much going in. Now it's saying, hey, the char set wasn't specified, the viewport's not specified. There's some other standards here that for a true HTML5 page you probably want to put in. I'm playing around, so I'm not really that hardcore about this at this time, but let's start thinking about some things here. So we've got now a basic page, and we could give it let's just give it an H1 XML processor. Okay, let's take a look. This is nothing that's going to look magical here, so don't expect much, but we're just throwing this together. So again, we'll back this out. This is super neat. We'll click on Process XML, XML processor. Okay, great, but there's nothing there. Yep, you're right, 100%. There's nothing there. That's all good. We can throw in a text area. We'll put an ID on it. And again, everyone has different ways of writing their code. I don't get religion about this. I can't say that enough. Go with what works for you. I'm just going to throw an ID because it's very simple. I could use a class. I could do a lot of different things. I'm just going to go ID. So this will be XML input, and that'll be a text area. Now you can do calls, and we can have, I don't know, 150 columns, and we can do rows. There's other ways of doing this as well. So I'm not here trying to tell you this is the absolute way of doing this. No, please don't. Please go to Mozilla. Please go to W3 Schools. Search the web. Ask the bot. I could ask the bot, what's the best way to create a text area tag that has this by this? And I bet you it would give it to me. So that's pretty cool, right? And then this is starting to open up a lot of ideas. Button, we'll put an ID on that as well. And the button will be just basically Process XML. And yeah, so the text will say Process XML. Alright, now I can put a label in here, which technically I think is good semantic, for, and this will be the ID, and you can say Process XML. Please click the button to process the data. Right, and we could do a label up here. And that's going to be for the XML input. This is pretty amazing stuff here. Not what I'm typing, but what I'm thinking the bot could probably have created for me faster than what I'm actually typing right now. Is that scary? A little bit, but is it helpful for me? Yeah. I get more time to do other things that I want to work on versus keystroking this stuff. So yeah, this is interesting. Very interesting. Please paste in the XML to process. Okay, so back here with a little bit of a reload. Wow, that's really styling, isn't it? Yeah, not. But it's giving us something that we could potentially do some things here. Okay, well, let's start talking about that script that was written. So I'm going to put a script tag in, and again, VS Code is super nice because it gives me the opportunity. That's a URL, so I don't want that. Let's get rid of this, and we can make this a little bigger. Control plus. I told you this is Edge, not Edge. This is Electron with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So in effect, this is a web browser. They're using the Electron platform is written in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's actually Node with a Node wrapper. And this is, the Control Plus is the same you would do on Edge If I do control plus, control minus, it's the same stuff to increase and decrease. So it's really super nice. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, so let's go and get our JavaScript. Interesting, they don't have a little copy button here. So I still have to drag it and get it, but it's, you know, this is super wonderful because this was all just written for me. So let's take a look at it in a little bit of a bigger environment. So I'm going to put it between my script tags here. Oh, come on. Copy. Let's go to the script tags. Right. Now, one of the pluses of VS Code is once you've got the format of what you're dealing with, it's going to give you the syntax highlighting. Okay, so HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, first-class citizens of VS Code, and it highlights and writes everything. Now, I find it intriguing that it used the function declaration. Why? Well, it's a little bit older declaration. A lot of the declarations now are a fat arrow syntax, meaning just basically it's an equal sign and an angle bracket, and then you write it a little bit differently. But I'm used to this, so this is not a problem for me. So it created its own function name, and it accepts as a parameter the XML that is coming in. Now, where are you going to get that XML from? Well, that would probably be from our text area. So that's what we're going to want to do. We'll do this through the button click. Okay, so this function is a reusable function. Let's do it through the button click. That's the better approach. The better approach is to do that. So I'm going to do that document.querySelector, and notice the IntelliSense I get. Super cool stuff. Now, what will be even crazier is eventually if they can say, okay, well, let's read all the IDs that are in this file and give them a choice. We're not there yet. So what I want to do is I want to look and see what's happening with my button. Okay, I want to add an event listener, and I want to basically say when somebody clicks that, then I would like a function to be called. And in this case, the function that we're going to call is going to be the XML to table function, and then we'll pass in the value, but we're not there yet. So again, probably could go right to the bot, but if memory serves me correct, we can say an empty function that then goes in and handles what we want to do. So we want to call XML to table, and here we're going to pass in document.querySelector and double quote the pound XML input, and then dot value. So it doesn't necessarily like value. We'll see if that'll work. I might be wrong with that, but we'll test it. We'll test it. Right, so what's happened when the button is clicked, this, and I like to comment my code, so click handler for button to trigger XML processing. Okay, and this is basically call function to process XML. Now, for this function, it'd be really nice to actually have a kind of a header for this. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times what you can do is you can kind of block the, what am I trying to say here? You can block off I'll show you. So just comments to say, okay, description. And there's, I think, a plugin that if you did a couple of keystrokes, it would automatically put this stuff in for you. But so convert XML to HTML table, and then you would params. You could do parameters. And you'd say accepts, XML string as input. And you would created and then modified. Why is this helpful? Because it's for the next person in line. It's really not for you. It's for the next person in line. It could be for you, your future self, when you come back to look at your code in 5 days and you're like, what was I doing? So that's just a thought, but it's simple, easy. As I said, there is it's like a Java doc header almost for commenting. So yeah, whether or not that's important to you, it's up to you. I'm not here to dictate that. The other thing I like to do is I use, and this is all built into VS Code, but I'll do a region, and this is actually a little bit of C# carryover. I'm sure it's used elsewhere. The only place I've seen it before, though, is C#. So this will be the XML transformation. Now, if you do region, and you do end region, right, so what happens with this function? Well, it looks like the bot is using the old syntax for variable declarations. It's not old, it's still available, you can do it, but what happens when you declare a JavaScript variable as a var is it doesn't stay into function scope. It gets hoisted into the larger memory of the entire compilation of the code. Meaning what? Well, this could be declared HTML a couple of different places. They're gonna conflict. So the better approach at this time is to actually use the keyword let. So if you're not a VS Code expert, which I'm not, but a little trick here is you can just do an Alt-Shift and then you can change things over. Same thing here, just a simple, now I could put the cursor here and click Alt a couple of times, or just hold Alt down and then click any place. I could also do a global search and replace, right? I mean, this isn't really rocket science, but this is kind of fun. So then you can do this, and then you can hit let, and now you've just transformed all your vars into lets. So with ES6, I think, ECMAScript 6, and now it's got dates to it, so it's ECMAScript 20, whatever it is, 2021, 2022, 2023, it's all out there. W3 Schools would have it for you. You could use lets or const, C-O-N-S-T. If you want to go back in the Wayback Machine, you can treat a var as like a global variable. So it goes everywhere. And those are always sometimes fun, and generally these days frowned upon by the Puritans. But again, you know, if your code is simple and you're not hurting anything, yeah, whatever. Obviously the bot is spitting it out this way, so there's something to it that they've, you know, Microsoft bought GitHub and crawled through all of that, so I guess I'm assuming a lot of people are using var still. All good, you know, to each his own. Right, so now I've got some JavaScript in here, and I want to just take a look and see what's going on. So I'm ready to output a table, and I'm going to use an old style of border equals 1. Now the border attribute is kind of disbanded. It's still available, obviously. The parsers will recognize it inside the browser, but your ideal state is to use CSS. So hey, still, you got some table markup. It is, interestingly enough, creating a DOM parser object to allow you to pass in the XML and parse it. That's super cool. Why? Because now it's going to go to work. Now I'm going to be able to declare this rows variable and say, okay, go and get the custom field, which this goes back to reading the XML correctly. So it knows we have repetitive custom fields here, row after row after row. It's doing that analysis for me. So that's really interesting. I like it. And that makes sense. And then for the header, it's going to set up this header here. That's basically the, in an array concept, your array start at position 0. It's just the way it is. And that's where our header would be. So we're gonna more or less create here our header block, which makes sense. So that's cool. And now how's it going to do that? What's it going to get out of that? Well, with the data I shot it, I already provided that to it. So that technically is all being provided. So if you look at the header, that's where I pulled this out manually. So that's interesting. Now before, in the generated HTML it created in the other video, it figured this out on its own. It read the tag names and gave us that output, and that's right here. So it read, no, maybe it didn't. Maybe it still pulled it because of the HTML or the XML I sent it, because that's got spaces in it. No, I didn't read those. That came from the data I supplied it. Okay, nix that. Right, back to basics, but we still need to handle the header. So that's this block right here, this for loop. And the header length is basically just going to be one row. That's what it's doing. It's just grabbing that first row of data. So once that's done, we are doing some string concatenation here. That's what this is, plus equals. Now it's doing the old school style of the pluses to concatenate strings with objects. There's nothing wrong with that. The newer variant though is basically with JavaScript string interpolation. So what you can do now is you can write your code this way, and this isn't a lesson on teaching JavaScript. I'm sorry I'm going this route. I really shouldn't, but it's just something. I just show the before and the after. So this is the backtick symbol, which is found right above your tab key on most keyboards. And by doing this now with the curly brace and the dollar syntax, you're more or less allowing yourself to read that in line versus trying to do the older style of pluses. Still legit, still very valuable, still useful. Again, I'm not passing judgment here. I'm just saying, okay, this is a different approach. Right, so that's going to do our table row with our table headers. And really, again, if you look at the markup here, that's what this did. So that's what this table row does with the table header. Cool. All right, so what else is going to handle? Well, now it's got to handle the body. Now it's got to handle the other rows that are basically not the header row. And if you notice, we're starting it at 0. And we're going to increase by 1 every time. That's what the I++ is. So it's two simple loops, one to handle the header, one to handle the rest of the rows. And once again, now we switch over from TH, which I mentioned in the last video is the table head, to just the table cell. So that's what this is doing. And then it should return that HTML. Now, where is it returning it? That's something that we haven't handled here. So with our button click, we're going to get this to get returned here. So let's declare a variable, let returned table equal that. Now, the one thing we don't have is a place to put it. So I could do a couple different ways. I'm not sure what folks are interested in seeing, but let's keep it simple. Let's do a div with another ID, and we'll say generated HTML. And there's going to be no content there. And what we're going to do is we are going to basically go a little, it's not super old school, but document, you've seen the query selector before now, and I'm going to grab that generated HTML, and I'm going to set its text content's not bad versus inner HTML. You can get debates all day, every day about this stuff, but I'm going to go with this, and then I'm going to just say return to table. Okay, so what's happening here? Well, the code is calling the function. The function's returning that. Now, I could even put that here instead of having it return, but we'll keep with what ChatGPT-4, the Bing bot there. Bing bot, that's kind of funny. Bing bot, that gave us the results, and let's go with what it's doing. I'm not going to try and change that. Okay, so I think we have everything we need at this time. Yeah, the end region and region. That's annoying me. I'm terribly sorry. I'm gonna have to take a deviation here. Let's do the pound for this, and let's do the pound for that. And maybe that's, I can't remember this now. End region, or does it have to be all the same? Let's see if that fixes anything. Nope. That doesn't fix anything. And let's do that up tight. And let's see if that fixes it. That's what it was. Right, so sorry, you have to do a pound region and then a pound end region. And it gives you code folding. Wow, that's amazing. Nah, I know. Not really. Okay, so now what's intriguing here is, let's put a semicolon here to finish this correctly. Semicolons have become optional, by the way. I'm still a fan of them, but they have become optional. Now, end region is not aligning up correctly to where we have region. That's actually lining up to there, so I guess it's going to have to be a manual tab in for it to do that. That's a format thing. That's not anything special. It's basically just the formatter not knowing what to do. But the pound region, pound end region, if you have a lot of functions, it's great, because then you can close them up and you can read them. I could put this one right here into a general click handler function block, or region block rather. Okay? Right. Saving. Let's grab some XML and let's try and break this. So we're going to grab our root and we're going to just copy this. We are going to head back now to our browser. And we're going to look at this. We're going to reload this. And one thing I want to do is, after I reload this, I want to make sure I don't have any errors. So right now we're looking clean. I don't see any JavaScript errors. We can get rid of this. These are open issues to view. Improvements. Well, thank you for the improvements. I just want to know if there's problems. Okay, so we're going to paste this in. And now we're going to process it. There's your markup, gang. But it doesn't look good. No, it doesn't, because I output it as text content. So let's change that to inner HTML and let's give it a table. But the code worked. So the code from the bot is working thus far. Let's switch over to inner HTML, and this is inner HTML. Let's do both. Right. And I just copied that, so now I gotta go back and copy my XML. I'm not that smart. Okay. And here we go. Okay, there you go. I overwrote it because I did it twice. Yeah, so the border 1 gives you the old funky style table look and feel. Which again, nothing wrong with that. There's really, but let's use what the bot already gave us, which is, hey, let's do this. So let's go back here. Let's get rid of this because this was useless. It just completely got overwritten. Not that smart. But we are missing styling. So let's go back. Let's take a look at what the bot generated the first time around. And let's try and use everything exactly as it came from there. Reusability is always good, right? Let's copy this. Let's go here. Let's paste this. So it's intriguing that you see where the JavaScript is. There's a little history lesson here, not that you want to listen to this, but script tags used to be placed in the top, in the head. What they started to realize is they were blocking the page to load. Now, because we have mobile, because we had 3G, 2G, now we have 4 and 5G, it's not as big of an issue. But a lot of what drove the transformation, if you will, of putting the script at the end of the body, at the end of the page, is to allow other assets that could render to actually hit the screen, to let the person know, hey, don't click away. We want you to stay on our screen. We don't want you to leave. You know, we want you to close the deal or whatever we're doing with the data. So styles, though, funny enough, you still want to have pulled in. CSS is lightweight compared to JavaScript and compared to the compiler that is required to do the JavaScript compilation. But Styles are still inside the head tag, JavaScript not so much. And then you could have your script and external scripts from CDNs, etc. Be pulled in towards the bottom. Just a little fun fact, not that you wanted to actually listen to that, sorry. Right, so let's rerun, and now that I copied that again, I got to go back and I got to get the XML. Let's do that one last time. And here we go, and we're going to paste, and we're going to run. Whoa, that kind of looks familiar. All right, so if we go, now it's interesting, it's duping. So it's duping the first row, just so you know, if you can't tell that, it is totally duping that. So that's funny. It can be, you know, it's easily tweakable. You could even argue you don't even need that loop, to be honest with you. You could probably just process the data as it is here, and with a little CSS treat it as the header row. I'm not going to squabble over that. That's definitely something that could be tweaked. But the code that came through here is working. So that's pretty cool. Right, so that was pure JS, a vanilla JavaScript. Maybe they don't call it that anymore, but they used to call it that. Basically plain JavaScript. And it's native, it's as close to the metal, if you will, of the programming compiler as you want, but I asked it again. And it said, well, okay, you're asking me again. You obviously didn't like the first solution, so I'm going to give you another one. So here we go again. And what's the difference with this one? Well, this one is using jQuery. Let's copy this in and let's paste it in. We can take a look at it. jQuery was created because of the browser wars, and it's a very, very nice library that's still applicable today. There's a ton of code that runs on jQuery. So there's no reason to say, oh, it's bad, it's this, it's that. Again, I don't get religion about this stuff. There's people that will fight you tooth and nail to the death. You can't use jQuery, it's got an extra kilobytes of data that gets pulled into the browser, and oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, in certain instances that's 100% correct. We're living in a very interesting time where computing power has become very cheap. We're very fortunate compared to the 60s and 70s and 80s, where the price of hard disks and processors and lots of things was exorbitant. With cloud computing, with mobile devices, etc. I'm on a little bit of a soapbox here, sorry. You know, I'm really questioning some things. So that argument to me doesn't hold, but hey, everyone's different. Go for it. So this one says, hey, you're gonna use jQuery with this, so you need to include it in your HTML file. So that's a nice heads up, and if you're not knowledgeable of that, you gotta go to W3 Schools or Mozilla. If you need to research it, Bing bot. Anyhow, right. What's neat about this though too is regardless of your tab, your bot screen stays open, so that's cool. They're really trying to make this more integrated, I think, into your search. I have liked the context that it puts around it. I do think that's nice versus getting just a list of links. And maybe that's what we'll see for the UI UX, user interface, user experience for folks, that they're going to like that more because it's a little more personalized. It's a little more humanistic versus you staring at a link, list of links and going, well, yeah, I can click, but I still don't have a clue. So as more of this evolves, I think we'll see even greater understanding of this. I mean, I'm sure I could ask it to please comment this code and do some other stuff, but I've already gone, I think, beyond the scope of what I was intending here. Thanks.